Hello? Hello?
Podcast Network Asia.
Hey guys, welcome back to Small Talk, small conversations with huge impact. And before anything else, I would like to greet each and every one of you for the last time this 2020. Welcome back to the show. If this is your first time, then I hope that you learned something from this episode, and I hope that you go check out the amazing episodes. I don't know how many episodes I uploaded this year, but there are so many that you need to listen to. So go binge listen to all of them and get a head start on your 2021. And for all the people who are coming back, who have listened to the podcast religiously, who have been invested in being a better version of themselves by listening to podcasts, by gaining new insights and new information that could help you make better decisions for yourself and for the people around you, welcome back. I cannot express how excited I am for this episode because I just thought of this episode kanina earlier, and I just wanted to do a little recap for what are the lessons I've learned this 2020. And I know that these lessons are not just lessons that I've learned, these are also lessons that you guys can also relate to. So I am excited to dive into that. But before that, I would like to make one major announcement. As you guys might know, I am working on a masterclass which will be released very, very soon. But besides that, I will also be starting my mindset coaching on 2021, and I am going to accept people who wanted to jumpstart. And I am inviting you guys, if you have a certain goal that you want and you want an accountability partner, if you want to level up your life this 2021, but you just don't know how to, let me help you get where you want to be in the future. I am opening up my DMs. You can follow me at Small Talk Podcast. Send me a message there. But you need to hurry right now because I will only be opening the coaching services to 5 people for the first batch. After that, maybe I can accommodate more, but I will only be opening this one for 5 people. So if you want to be coached by me, then go ahead and message me on Instagram at Small Talk Podcast. So with that being said, let's now head on to the 20 lessons that I have learned this year. Now, before that, now, the lessons I will share you guys, some are very vague, some are very deep, some are just simple thoughts that that I thought about, just simple ideas that I have thought about while I was writing this down. And as you may know, last week I didn't upload any episodes because I was trying to reflect on what really happened this 2020. And I just, a lot of people are thinking that 2020 is a shit show. And to be fair, it kind of is. But if we label this year as a bad year, then we can not see the goodness that comes with it. If we label this year a great year, then we won't be we won't sit down and look for different things that we need to improve on. Okay, so one thing that I'd like to share with you guys is for us to stop labeling 2020 as the good year or the bad year. It's just is. It's a little bit challenging. It's a little bit difficult compared to the other years, but it's just a part of our lives. And kahit anong debate ang gawin natin, kahit anong paglaban ang gawin natin, hindi na natin mababago to. This is what it is. And we need to start accepting that so that we can actually learn the things that we can learn from this year. Okay? And I was overhearing a conversation with my relatives. They were saying that 2020 has been the worst year ever. Right? And I just can't say that because, look, I'm not trying to sugarcoat things. 2020 has been hard for me. I have lost my grandmother. My mother has lost her job. I have dropped out of Mapua. Not dropped out. I I didn't enroll in my last term in Mapua, and I had a lot of breakdowns, and it was really, really challenging. But I cannot really label this year as a bad year, because if I put a label that this is a bad year, then that's done. It's a bad year. I can't do anything about it. So instead, I am trying to approach 2021 with with accepting 2020 for what it is and trying to learn all the lessons that it gave me. So I want you guys to open your eyes first before we head on to the 20 lessons. So, okay, let's now head on to our first lesson, and the lesson that I love. And the first lesson is, the only certain in life is uncertainty. I could easily remember back in March, I was drinking in Poblacion. I was drunk as fuck. I was really partying my heart out. And I have never imagined my life like this, how I am right now. I would never imagine that. And so we always say that change is constant. Change is constant in our lives, right? But we really didn't understand that until this year. And so if there is one thing that we could easily learn from this year, is that the only thing certain is uncertainty. We had all the plans. We had all the dreams that we will do in 2020. It's the start of the new decade, full of hopes and dreams and desires. But life showed us that the only thing certain is uncertainty. And that is the first lesson. And I forgot, if you guys can relate to any of the lessons that I will share with you guys, I want you to share this on Instagram. Share the lesson that you learned this 2020. If meron kayong mga naisip na lessons, meron kayong mga natutunan this year, I would love to hear them or read them. Share this on Instagram. Tag me at Small Talk Podcast. And I want to know, what is your biggest lesson this 2020? Take the time while you are listening to this, pause this, and think about, what has 2020 taught me? And I would love to hear that. Okay? So, okay. Now, second, sometimes surviving is enough. For the longest time, I was trying to push myself to better myself, right? But this year, it has been really, really hard. But I realized that in times like this, in very challenging times, in crisis like this one, sometimes surviving is enough. This year has forced us to just take care of our health, make sure that we don't die, and rest in peace. And I pray to the souls. I pray for the souls that have been affected by the COVID-19 who are not here with us right now. But in times like this, we need to understand that our first priority is surviving. Okay, we might not be able to go on amazing trips like we planned. We might not be able to do the things that we usually do, but if we survived this year, that's enough. And I've written a letter that I wrote to my 2020 self. If you are subscribed to the newsletter, then you have read it. If you haven't, then send me your DM. Send me your email on my DM at Small Talk Podcast, and I will send you the newsletter. It's a short letter that I wrote to my 20-year-old self, and I wrote there that you survived 2020, because if you are listening to this podcast, then I am sure that you have the health and the leisure to listen to podcasts, and that means that you have a lot of things to be grateful for. That means you survived 2020, and you should be grateful for that. And that's the second lesson. Okay, so the third lesson is, we are all connected as human beings. And that's a really interesting thing that realized. Despite their differences, despite the different beliefs that we have, despite the different races, despite us being in different races in different places, we are all connected as human beings, and that it is us wanting to survive, and it is us in these challenging times that we experience pain. We know that pain is universal, and with pain we all experience that, and in that way we are all connected. It's like we are I don't know if you watched what's this show on Netflix. It's The Midnight Gospel. It's like it says that we are just a node in and it's like we are connected to different nodes and different people around the world, and in the world we're just one big web. We're just one big web of connected nodes. And in that way, because we are all suffering in a way, we are all growing and trying to survive in a way, we are all connected. That's one thing that I've learned this year. The fourth one is we have so much to learn. We have thought that we can only learn by how society teaches us, by us going to schools, by us going to work, by us talking to people. But this pandemic has shown us that even though we have a lot of knowledge and information at our hands, we still have so much to learn. And that shows as well the resiliency of us as human beings, and the adaptability of us as human beings, that we think that we are so advanced in terms of technology and all that stuff, but this pandemic is really humbling in the terms of us realizing that we have so much to learn. And in one way, books has been very, very, very essential in us adding that. And I know a lot of you guys have not discovered the podcast, but most of you guys just discovered the podcast this year. And in this year, if you're listening to this one, you know that there are so many things to learn. And even right now, as I am saying things and ideas and concepts to you guys and sharing my experiences, I honestly believe, I 100% believe that I have so many things to learn. Which is which is mind-blowing, because, the things that I'm sharing with you guys, these are things that I've learned based on my experiences and my reflections and my learning and from different books, podcasts, and all those stuff. But I know that I have so much to learn, and it just excites me in the future knowing that there are so many things to learn in this world. And I'm really, really excited for 2021, because 2021, I can feel it. I really can feel it. It's a year of learning. Okay. Back in 2019, I predicted that 2020 is going to be a year of change. It's a transition year. And it is. It happened. But I feel like 2021 will be a year where we will all learn. We're stronger now because of the pandemic. And the lessons that we learn here, we will bring this to 2021 and make sure that we will maximize 2021 because we have learned so much in 2020. Okay, so the next lesson that I have is we have more than one version of ourselves. I know, right? As I've told you guys before, I was just partying in Manila, trying to just have fun and all, do those stuff, trying to finish my degree in Mapua. But this pandemic has shown me that I can be an influencer, if you can say that, all right? But I can be a motivational speaker. I can be a public speaker. And I've seen so many people discovering that they can bake, that they can cook, that they can sell online stuff, that they love to read books, that they love to dance and create videos on TikTok, just like how I did it, right? But it turns out that we have we have more than one version of ourselves. And this year has shown us one version of ourselves. But we need to be careful in not getting too caught up in this one version of us, because right now this year we might be this version of us, but next year is another version of us. Okay? But it's important for us to understand we're not just one dimensional. We can be two things or three things in most. We can only do one thing. Our purpose is only one thing, but our passion, they can be a lot of things. Our strengths can be a lot of things. We have different version of ourselves. And that's the fifth lesson. Fifth pa lang, no? Okay, we're already at 15 minutes. Okay, sixth lesson is the news sucks. Before, I love reading newspaper. Every single morning, me and my girlfriend would go to Jollibee at 7 a.m. in the morning. That time we would always go at 7 a.m. because that was the only time that the newspapers were available. I was really, really into news. I read every single bit of news, entertainment, sports, stocks, business, world news, every news that I can read, I read them all. But this pandemic has shown us that the news, it sucks. It sucks. And I know that there are a lot of negative things that need to be reported, but they are really pushing this negative narrative about 2020. And it makes sense. I heard that we as human beings have the negativity bias, where we are attracted to negative stuff. That's why the news know that, and therefore, instead of trying to show the positive things that also happens in 2020, they are not showing that. They're just showing the negative stuff. So this year, I learned that the news sucked. And one resolution that I made or adjusted during this quarantine season is I stopped reading all the news that I could read. It's just too much. Okay? So that's the sixth one. Seventh lesson is that money isn't everything. And this is probably one of my favorite, because as the pandemic hit us, we've seen that a lot of us, kahit yung mga mayaman, wala silang magawa sa pera nila. Hindi sila makalabas. They can go to concerts, they can't buy stuff. Well, they can online shopping, but it's very limited. They can't spend all the money that they can spend because of the pandemic. And it just shows that money isn't everything. This pandemic has stripped us down to what has stripped us down to our very core and showed us what needs to be prioritized, which is our health, and what needs to be valued as we go forward with our lives. This is an equalizer. This very humble experience. And one thing that I've learned is that money isn't everything. That's the seventh lesson. The eighth lesson is going digital is the future. We have seen a lot of people lose their businesses because they cannot adapt to the digital era that we are in. And for so long, the oldies, yung mga thunders, they kept on fighting against this technology, saying that it's for the new people, right? But it just shows that it's not in the future. Technology is the now. And if you're not ready to adjust to the technology that we have, you are going to lose in this life. And I have a lot of experiences with people saying that they don't want to download TikTok, they don't want to download Instagram, they don't want to be online for whatever reason, because that's just not them. But they're going to lose big time if you are not going to utilize the tools that social media or the technology can give you guys, especially if you are running a business. If you are running a business and you're not online, you're going to lose 100%. Okay, So the next lesson is, oh, this one's a little bit spicy. Cutting unnecessary people has so many benefits. And for the longest time, I have a lot of people that I wanted to cut out of my life, but I can't because I'm a really friendly guy. And I've always held on to the idea thinking that maybe I don't even need to cut them. Maybe they'll just weed out of my life naturally. But it just shows that when I tolerated these people in my lives, the more reason they got to stay. And this pandemic has shown me, or at least forced me, to stop spending time with people that does not match my energy. But when I did that, I found peace. And that peace is something that I have been praying for a very long time. But I'm really, really happy that I did not have to deal with the awkward, very harsh way of cutting people out of my life, because this pandemic just tells us that you cannot meet people, you cannot meet friends or meet people because of COVID. But essentially, what it did is it gave us social distancing, not from just from the people that we care about, but also from the people that we don't want to see ever, or don't want to hang out with ever again. And somehow this pandemic has been the easiest way to weed out the toxic people from our lives. And it has a lot of benefits. And the first one is peace. It gives you stillness. Okay. So the next lesson is a continuation from the last one. When you've cut people out of your life, you will feel lonely. And one lesson that I've learned is that it's hard to be lonely. There will be days in your life that you will just have no one to talk to but yourself. And for people like me who is an extrovert, who are an extrovert, we have just probably we have just experienced the hardest stretch by far in our lives. It's just hard, when you're not connecting to people. But I also realized, and this is like the main lesson here, I also realized that there is glory and there is peace when you are alone. And we've done so good as a society to label loneliness as a bad thing. When you're alone, there must be something wrong with you, or there is something missing in your life. But sometimes, I've realized this 2020 that there is a certain peace that you can only achieve when you are alone, when you are in solitude. Okay? There's stillness that can be found there. So don't be afraid. It might be hard in the beginning when you're adjusting to that phase, but when you get the hold of it, it's really fantastic. Okay, the next lesson is, of course, since a lot of us are not fully expecting this pandemic to make us feel very lonely, there has been an increasing number of people who are having a harder time coping up with their mental health. And so the next lesson that I learned is that mental health is really, really, really important. And the people who are close to me knows about this. I always share them. They ask me, "What's your secret? How did you did it on tech? How did you do it on TikTok? How did you got so big so fast?" I was just at the right moment. I kept telling them. Last year I was preaching about mental health. I was talking about mental health, but people are not noticing it because they feel they're filling up their life, or they're filling up their lives with work, and they're distracting themselves, and they're trying to downplay that mental health is we don't need to take care of our mental health. But the pandemic showed us that mental health is very, 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 very important. And that's the reason why you are here, right? And so I hope that as the years move forward, we break the stigma around mental health and have a more healthy conversation about mental health, because our mental health is directly connected to our physical health, and we cannot take care of our physical health if we're always working out and taking care of our bodies, but if we're not taking our mind, it's useless. Okay, so mental health is very important. The next lesson that I learned is that most of your friends are friends for a season. And that's connected to what I said earlier. Again, there are three types of friends: the friends for a season, friends for a reason, and friends for a lifetime. But I thought for the longest time that my friends for a lifetime are people who, but this pandemic showed me that my friends for a lifetime is not really for a lifetime. They're just friends for a season. And when this pandemic season came, I learned that there were only few, 1, 2, maybe 3 people that I could count on for the rest of my life. And I understand it's not something very personal, and I don't take it against people. Maybe that's how they feel about me as well, and I don't take offense to that. I just know that my friends are sometimes that most of my friends are either friends for a reason or friends for a season. And yeah, it's hard. This is one of the hardest pill that I had to swallow this 2020, but I know I have full faith. I have absolute faith that this will all work out soon. So for the friends that I had, I just want to say thank you if you're listening to this podcast. The memories that you gave me, that I am a part of in your life, I will forever treasure that. But I know that in the coming years, or in the phase where I am right now, it's just not fitting for both of us to be friends at the moment. So I hope that we both come to this understanding that this is just how it is. Okay, I'm about to get emotional. Joke. Okay, so that's the next lesson. The next lesson is there are so many people out there that matches your energy. When you cut out certain people in your life, there will be plenty of space for new people in your life. The longer you hold on to the bad relationships that you have with the people around you, the less time, or the less time you actually spend with people who matches your energy. Your energy is very limited. So if you're spending them all on people who drains you, who does not match your frequency or your vibration, you won't have any space left. You won't have any left to spend, or to give, or to match the people that you are meant for. And I've learned this 2020 that there are so many people out there that I can connect to. But if I didn't let go of the people who were in my spot, there wasn't gonna be any space for new people to come in. So remember that when people, when the only time that people come into your life, if you actually have space for new people in your life. So make space. Okay. The next lesson is crisis does not change people. It just reveals who they really are. So if you are a competent leader, if you are a competent president, this pandemic has shown that, has amplified that. If you're a bad person, if you are a mean person, it just amplifies your you being mean to people. If you are a more empathetic person, this crisis will make you more empathetic. Will reveal that you will amplify your empathy towards other people. This pandemic does not change us. It just revealed and amplified who we really are. So the colors that you see from the people around you this pandemic, this is actually their true colors. I hate to say it, but that's the truth. So the next lesson is slowing down is important. And I have made so many talks this year about mental health, about slowing down. I mean, there's a culture that we build from these hustlers and entrepreneurs and CEOs that we see on social media, that we need to hustle 24/7. We need to work, work, work. I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but there is a very important component that they forgot to say or to tell you guys or to tell us guys. It's that slowing down is very important, because in slowing down we get to reflect, and without reflection there is no progress. When we keep on putting the work, but in the end we'll realize, but if we're putting mediocre work, then we'll see no progress. Pain plus reflection equals progress. And the only time that we can reflect is if we slow down. So please, for 2021, remember to slow down. And that leads us to the next lesson, which is rest must be intentional. The pandemic put us in a position where everything is mixed up, where we don't know what the time is, where we work, we study, we eat, we watch Netflix, we rest, we sleep in the same place, at the same area, okay? And we think that we're resting for some period, but if we are not intentional with our rest, our body does not accept it as rest. That's why it's very, very important that we put rest as a priority. We treat it as work. We treat it as something very important that we need to do. Because when we do that, we get re-energized. We reconnect with ourselves. And so for 2021, that's one of my New Year's resolution. I will not take rest for granted. And I hope you don't too. So, the next lesson, the 17th lesson that I learned this 2020 is manifesting is real. It just happens in ways that you have never imagined. I'm telling you guys, this has been one of my dreams, to speak and inspire a lot of people, to motivate other people in their lives. But I never imagined it to be this way, in this setting, in this platform. But I know that the seed that I planted back in 2017, 2016 probably, that I will be in here speaking to people, it came true. And that's one thing that I will never ever forget. With forever in my life. It's probably the best lesson that I learned this year. That if you just plant a seed and you really believe in it, and you really, really want it, it could happen. That's what happened with me. So right now you might be in a dark place. You might be in a very low area in your life. But understand that if there is a seed of hope, of a life better than this, and if you hold on to it with full faith, with absolute faith that it's going to happen, trust me, it will happen. Believe me, it will happen. Just like how it did with mine. So that's the 17th lesson. Manifesting is real. It just happens way different than what you imagined. Now, 18th lesson is expectations bring disappointments. Every single time that I hear from this government that we have here in the Philippines that we're gonna have vaccines very soon, we're gonna reduce it to a modified quarantine or something, and our expectations goes up, even though it's our expectations for this government is very, very low. But when we still expect, because they said something, and it gives us hope, it gives us expectations, it eventually leads us to disappointment. And I've learned that it does not apply only to government, even in our relationships with other people, even with how we look at ourselves. When we expect so much, it will bring disappointments. Always. You might be able to reach a certain type of expectations, but as a human beings who makes mistakes, who has a lot of flaws and imperfections, you will slip up. And if you have expectations, you will have disappointments. So the best thing to do as we go into 2021 is to have a hope, but expect the worst. Continue to hold on to the hope that there is a better tomorrow, but drop all of your expectations. Kung hindi man nangyari, then it's okay. You didn't expect, but you are hoping that it will get better. And trust me, it will. So hope, don't expect. Okay, so 19th, the second to the last lesson that I learned this 2020 is that the little things matter. The 2020, this year, this pandemic has shown us that it's not about the grand things that matters in life. It's not about the Porsches. It's not about the grand gestures, the fanciest restaurants that we eat in. It's the little things. It's the smile from the people that we love. It's the conversations with the people that we don't usually talk to. It's the simple weather. It's how our dogs makes us feel happy every time we see them. It's the joy in tasting that first sip of coffee in the morning. It's when you're opening a new book, when you're finishing a book. It's in the small things that makes life really, really amazing. And I hope in 2021, we all become more appreciative of the little things. We find joy in the little things. We find happiness in the ordinary things. And we find hope in the unexpected places in our lives. Yeah. I'm really hopeful for 2021. I hope you are too. And the last lesson for 2020 is that everything eventually ends. For the longest time, we have been dreading na tama na, tigil na 2020, awat na, stop na 2020. And here we are, in this point where 2020 will end and the new chapter awaits us. And we have been so worried and anxious about whether this will end. Apparently it will. Apparently everything will. Not just this year. One thing that I have been thinking about for the past few days is how everything is so fragile. Our life is very long, but at the same time, it's limited. It's short. It's gonna end one way or another. We all have a terminal illness. Some people have cancer and they know that they're gonna die after a next period of years or a next period of time, X amount of time. But through this, all of us are going to die. This life that we have right now, it's gonna end. It's gonna end. We just don't know when. But I want you guys to understand that until we die, we need to live. Would you rather be doing stupid shit in your life, and when death finally comes into your life, you'll be caught doing things that you don't really want to do with your life? You don't want to do that, right? So try to live the day as if it's gonna end, as if you know when it's going to end. Because through this, we'll never ever know. But one thing's for sure, everything will end. And I hope that if you guys are experiencing a very hard time, even in this holiday season, understand that it will end. And that tomorrow will be better. And that you got this. And if you don't, then I'm here to remind you that you got this. I believe in you. So, this is the last episode for 2020, and I'm getting a little bit emotional, but I just want to say thank you guys for always being here and enjoying the podcast. I hope that you learned something from this episode. Again, if you resonate with any of the lessons, go ahead and share it on Instagram at Small Talk Podcast. For the last time this 2020, share what you have learned from this episode. And I would be very, very excited to read all of them. And if meron kayong mga lessons na natutunan na hindi ko nabanggit dito, please let me know. I wanna add them to the lessons that I could learn this 2020. So, please. Don't forget to tag me at Small Talk Podcast. And yeah, thank you guys so much for an amazing 2020. You guys made this very memorable. And I will forever treasure this. And yeah. Thank you guys. This is Alec Cuenca from Small Talk Podcast. And I will see you guys next episode. Maybe next year. Bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed by the podcast creators, hosts, and guests do not necessarily reflect the official policy and position of Podcast Network Asia. Any content provided by the people on the podcast are of their own opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything.